My family and I slow traveled across 10 countries with a nonverbal level 3 autistic child and our daughter who is neurotypical. And while I thought that having a child with autism meant that we needed to create structure for us didn't have to be same location, same time zone, same foods, same routine. But there needed to be consistency. And the consistency that we've been building with our son since we adopted him was the consistency of us. We created a consistency of ourselves being that consistency. Structure, at least with my son, meant that if he did something or if something occurred, that he knew what to expect. So for example, if he woke up in the morning in Italy, he still expected to eat. If we were sleeping in a hotel or in someone's home or in an Airbnb, even camping, which we only did once, if he woke up in the middle of the night because he needed to go potty, he needs to know where the potty is. So whenever we're traveling or wherever we're at, we always show him where the potty is. And when we went camping, we created a porta potty for him. We had one of those portable tents and we put a portable potty, which is like a plastic potty that you could collapse with a plastic bag. He knew exactly where to go if he needed to get up in the middle of the night and go potty. And those are the types of consistent things that I'm talking about. We've moved a lot, and my son would wake up in the morning and we'd be in a sleeping bag or a blow-up bed in an empty house in a different city. And I talked about the potty thing, so he always knew where the potty was. And when he woke up, he expected breakfast. There was one time that we woke up in a country where the food was different. We woke up in Japan and there was nothing gluten-free in the hotel for him. And he had to basically eat protein bars that we bought from home. And then when we got to a restaurant for him to eat, they only had like ramen, and then they had chopsticks for him to eat with, and they had soups, and they had nothing that was familiar to him. In fact, they had nothing that was familiar to us either. We ended up accidentally ordering chicken sashimi, which basically is raw chicken, which we didn't eat. So in times like that, we go to the grocery store. In Japan, it was a 7-Eleven. And at 7-Eleven, they had like chicken, slices of chicken breast, which was amazing. So we were able to give him breakfast there. And because he was so used to the structure of when I wake up in a strange country, either I'm going to sit at a table and eat, and if that isn't the case, I'm going to wait for my mom and dad because they will feed me something. I may or may not like it. And if I don't like it, I'm just going to have to build resilience, which is what he does. But eventually, I will get the food I love. One of the key factors in being successful in raising an autistic child while traveling is the trust. Like, he trusts that he will get what he needs from us. People are super kind. We were on an airplane. We had booked plane tickets where it was going to be me and my daughter in the window seats, and then right across the aisle was going to be my husband and my son. So Evan was sitting beside my husband, and we went to sleep because it's a long flight. And I wake up, my husband's fast asleep, and my son's snuggled inside of the shoulder and neck of the passenger next to him. And the passenger is also fast asleep. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Long story short, we explained to the passenger later on when they both woke up that my son has autism, and he allowed Evan to continue to sleep on his shoulder for almost the entire flight. And of course, it doesn't stop there. When everybody had to wake up for breakfast, my son then started touching his beard. We would have told him to stop, but the passenger, enjoyed having Evan beside him and enjoyed having Evan touch his beard. Evan is very sensory oriented, and he loves to touch tactile stuff and interesting textures, such as a beard. So he was doing that. People are just so super kind. There have been many times where I've boarded a flight where I would tell the passenger next to me, I'm so sorry in advance. My son might do XYZ. Let me know if he does, but I'm going to be watching him like a hawk. And there was one time from a flight from LA to Seattle where it was just me and my son. My son had the middle seat and there was a guy on the aisle seat and he had a beard. And as soon as he sat down, I was like, oh my gosh, you have a beard. So then I tell him, I'm like, my son loves beards. The guy's like, I'm totally fine with your son touching my beard. Here, why don't you touch it now? And it was really great. I haven't come across even one person that didn't enjoy having my son around. But if we did, we would totally make sure that my son did not interact with that person at all. Because we only allow him to do stuff like this when we know that the other person is receptive. And most people have been receptive. We were in Italy, in Venice. We just arrived, our first time to Italy, and we needed to find food. So the only food that was available where we were all hungry, was a pizza place. So we go in, and I wasn't sure how we were going to manage Evan's diet at that moment. We had just arrived. We hadn't had any time to look for grocery stores or anything like that. And we were staying in an Airbnb, so we didn't have a hotel or room service or anything like that. So we go into this, it was a small restaurant, small kind of like local restaurant on the outside of the tourist area in Venice. And so we walk in and we order, and I ask the waiter if they have anything gluten-free. I said, my son, he's not allergic, but we prefer to give him gluten-free items because it really changes his behavior when there's gluten in his system. And in his broken English, he said he understood. He goes into the kitchen, comes back out, and he says, I'm so sorry, we don't have any gluten-free bread, we don't have any gluten-free pastas, but we have some extra bacon, we have some prosciutto for protein, because I told him my son needs a high-protein diet. He said, we have some vegetables, and he said, do you want me to cook you a pizza dough? We have pizza dough that's gluten-free, but it's not made yet. If you wait like 20 minutes, I can make you pizza dough and turn that into bread. I was so grateful. I'm like, you would do that? He said, yeah, of course. So he did that, and he didn't charge us for it. They served bread before the meal. He just gave it to my son. So people are just so kind. So I also learned over time that meltdowns don't mean failures. There's going to be meltdowns for the rest of his life. There's going to be meltdowns for the rest of my life if I don't get the things that I want. You know, we're all creatures of habit, and we all have expectations and we all have needs. So if I don't get what I want, I'm going to have a meltdown. Truly, we're always going to have meltdowns. I'm able to read the signs more when I know Evan needs something, because meltdowns are very consistent. They happen when he needs something and then he's not being heard or he's not being noticed. And then he needs it even more as time goes by. And then he starts to escalate his emotions. At some point, his emotions are so high because he really needs the thing that he needs. And then full on meltdown. And once we get to meltdown level, you just got to ride it out. So we're learning each time. Evan had a meltdown on a plane from Istanbul to San Francisco. We usually put a diaper on Evan on a plane because he can't always tell us when he needs to potty. And also, oftentimes you can't just get up and go to the potty whenever you want. Turbulence, there's people waiting for the potty. You know, it's a whole ordeal. And if Evan doesn't have an aisle seat, you can't keep climbing over people to go to the restroom every 5 minutes. So we put a diaper on Evan. Well, this was a 14-hour flight and we ran out of diapers. But the staff at the airline were so kind. They asked other passengers for diapers. They did not have one diaper left on the plane, and we were not prepared. We did not think that he would go through as many diapers as he did. They did find one diaper. It didn't fit well enough, but we were able to put that on him, and then that diaper got used up. He wanted water, and we were trying to limit the water because we were running out of diapers. And no, we were not depriving him of water. We were not. We were giving him the water he needed. But he just wanted more. And we didn't have any. And then the plane had turbulence. There's this happening. And that's scary. So I'm going to go back now. It's scary when you're walking on a beach and all of a sudden this tractor thing starts coming at you head on. Anyway, so we're on the plane and then he goes into full-on meltdown. We're sitting in the seats. You can't really there's not a lot of room to have a meltdown when you're sitting in the seats. And we were stuck. This is something that we just weren't prepared for and something we learned from. He was trying to grab me and scratch me, and then he was trying to kick the seat in front of him. Because he just got beyond his limit. Both my husband and I were talking to him, and yeah, we made it through. He eventually calmed down and realized he just had to wait just a little longer. And when the plane landed, he was happy. We got him some water. The flight attendant came and gave him water. The problem that we had at that time was that we didn't have any diapers on him. So if he got water and then he had an accident, we didn't have anything to catch that accident, if you know what I mean. And we didn't want to do that to the plane, and we didn't want to do that to him either. We didn't want him to have like wet clothes. So he was able to hold it, thankfully. But now we're prepared. We have to make sure we have extra diapers, extra water. Travel is chaotic sometimes. Okay. I used to be someone that when I traveled, I needed to make plans ahead of time so that I could see what I needed to see and I could be 100% prepared. But as you know, with a neurodivergent family, we can't always prepare the way we want to. And so the way we travel now, actually the way we do anything now outside of the home is I keep it loose. So if I want to go on a hike with my kids, I will go on a hike with my kids, but if something happens, we might change. We might divert from going on a hike to going to the park instead. It depends on my kids' moods. It depends on my moods. There are times where I just don't want to go out with my son because I don't feel like managing autism. So I'll just go out with my daughter. And then my husband will stay home with the kids or whatever. So we do that even when we travel. There are times where I just wanted to be with Evan alone. We did this in Paris. My daughter had a class, it was pouring rain, and we needed to go and buy some stuff at the store in Paris. And so I'm like, Evan, come with me. So I made sure that all his basic needs were met, and then we just strolled the streets of Paris in the rain, no umbrella, and it was awesome. I had to navigate the language, and then I had to navigate my son's moods. I had to make sure that he was always happy so he didn't go into a full-on meltdown when we were somewhere on the streets of Paris. Anyway, when we don't plan things, or when we loosely plan things, or when we plan things and the plans don't work out, it's magic because there's always a silver lining. When I wanted to go on a hike, we were in the countryside of France. I wanted to go on a hike with my kids, and I forget what happened. But for some reason, Evan didn't want to get out of the car. So I drove around, I said, okay, we're going to forget the hike. So I drove around, then I saw a playground close by. I stopped. I go, Evan, do you want to go on the playground? He said yes. And so he got out of the car there. Don't know why he didn't want to get out of the car earlier. We go to the playground. There was like this girl that looked a little younger than Evan, and she was following him everywhere. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so cute, Evan, you have a crush. And it happens to be another autistic child. And she was following him, and then I guess it was her sister that was with her. Her sister said, it's time to go home now. And the girl did not want to go home. The girl wanted to continue following Evan, which is fine. They were kind to Evan. She allowed the sister, I believe it's a sister, allowed the girl that I think is autistic to continue following Evan. Then they really needed to go, and the girl dropped down and had a full-on meltdown. I felt bad for the sister. The sister was embarrassed, but I held the space for her. Eventually, Evan and I and my daughter left, and that was a silver lining. Evan didn't want to do what we wanted to do, and we ended up finding this playground, and he wanted to do that. And you don't need to speak the language to connect. That was the most amazing experience that I've ever had interacting with the locals in a different country. I just created this channel because I wanted to share our life with others. We're figuring it out one day at a time, one moment at a time, and we'd love to have you be part of our journey. If you have any questions, any comments, any feedback, I would love that too, because we're a community, and I'm reaching out to create our community as a family of 5 that was created in a very unconventional way, and creating consistency and structure in a very organic, unstructured way.